to another episode of Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzie, and I'm your host for today's show. For me, it's great that the Premier League is back. I know there's been some entertaining games during the international break, but you can't beat the hustle and bustle of English football. So, for me, I'm glad the Premier League's back. It feels like it's been a long time since we covered any matches, especially during our regular match week. So, today I'll be previewing one of the big games this weekend, which is Watford versus Liverpool. So quite a few things to talk about actually regarding both teams. We can start with Watford actually. So Watford, oh fuck, it's not working. Hello and welcome to another episode of Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzie and I'm your host for today's show. So finally, the Premier League is back. I know there's been some entertaining games during the international break, but for me, you can't beat the hustle and bustle of the Premier League. So for me, I'm glad the Premier League's back. I feel like it's been too long since we last did an episode and spoke about any exciting games during our season. So let's begin with the match that I'll be previewing, which is Watford versus Liverpool, as it's an away game for Liverpool. So some interesting points to talk about for both teams, actually. So we'll start off with Watford. Watford have a new manager in Claudio Ranieri. In terms of the appointment, I don't think, for Watford fans, from what I've seen online and have discussions with other people, it's not a huge surprise as it's sort of their policy, I guess, in terms of sacking managers. If things aren't working, there's no sort of emotional attachment or any sort of sentiment towards the individual. So I know a lot of people have their views regarding Watford in terms of their sacking of managers. Don't get me wrong, it's a bit unorthodox the way they do it because it's quite frequent, especially whenever Watford are in the Premier League. It tends to happen sort of October, September time. So it wasn't a huge surprise for me. I don't think they were doing that well. They only won one home game so far this season and quite a few losses, in particular against Brighton, Spurs, Norwich. No, it's the one against Norwich, sorry. And the last game against Leeds. So not a huge surprise. To be fair, it wasn't the worst of starts as well. But understandably, it is one of those seasons where you have to have a good start. There's a lot of teams around Watford that are doing well. So maybe we thought a new manager in place is probably the right choice at this stage of their season. Me personally, I feel like whatever floats your boat in terms of ownership. But if you look at their history, they've managed to achieve 6 seasons in the Premier League. They've gone to FA Cup semi-final, Cup final, FA Cup final as well. A couple of promotions here and there. So if in terms of the track record, you can't really argue with it. It's probably just unorthodox in terms of how they do and how frequent they sack their managers. But nevertheless, they recruit a good manager in Claudio Ranieri. Premiership experience, obviously, with previous teams like Chelsea and winning the title with Leicester City. So not a bad replacement at all. Great character as well. So breath of fresh air whenever you see him on press conferences and any post-match interviews that he does. So not a bad appointment, I think. A bit hard to predict their sort of starting lineup. For me, there's a few stand-up players. So Ismail Assar would definitely start. He's their main danger man. Josh King as well. He's been one of their main players this season. Emmanuel Dennis. He's the one that's been getting a few goals as well. So some decent attacking players there. You've got Sissoko as well, who they signed from Tottenham, playing some more box to box this season. So, and they've got Cleverly on the bench as well. You've got Cabasele, who's a good centre back. Surprised he hasn't started that many games this season. I remember when he was in the Premier League a couple of years ago, showed some good performances. So, still have a decent team in their squad. Home fixture, so it should suit them a bit more. But I don't think you can sort of displace how great form Liverpool are. But then again, Watford fans would probably argue and say, that's probably the same tone that Liverpool fans had 2 years ago during our Premier League run. And Watford were the first team to beat Liverpool to sort of break the winning streak, which was quite disappointing at the time, to be fair. But yeah, it's a new day, it's a new game, so new season. So it's not really, no need to look at the past in that regard. But Liverpool, I think there's been a few injury concerns so far. No sort of official confirmation in terms of the Brazilian lads being able to play. I feel like they're playing today, actually. So seems very unlikely that they'll be able to make it on time to play tomorrow. So that means Alisson probably wouldn't start. Fabinho wouldn't start either. Firmino was actually not selected, so he should be fit and ready. Probably trained all week, so definitely an interesting proposition in terms of who would start an attack. As Jota has been injured as well, he's had a few niggles here and there. But Klopp came out in his press conference and mentioned that he might possibly start, as well as Trent Alexander-Arnold, which is good news. And I feel like he has been missed. I know Milner's done well to debutise in the right-back position, but we just lack that pace down the wings as well. So it's got a comment here from Ravi Bukhari. Yeah, big up. Thank you, Ravi. I remember your comments from last episode. Yeah, thank you for tuning in. So what I'll do first, I'll do my predicted formation. But before I start, just got a comment here from Ravi. Thoughts on Taki? Should he play in this game? I wouldn't start him in this game personally. I would definitely get him involved. I think coming from the bench, he might actually be quite a useful option to have, especially if you saw the way he played in the League Cup and where he scored a couple of goals. That sort of opposition might suit him. But I'd like to see him play more of a central role, so as a false nine, rather than playing him out wide. On the left-hand side, he doesn't tend to do too bad, but I just feel like he doesn't have the pace and power to sort of overtake anyone at this stage of the season. So I would have him as a bench option, to be fair. I'll present my lineup in terms of who I believe should be starting. So we've got let me just take off this artwork here so you can see my face. So we've got Kelleher in goal. So I've got him in goal because I don't think Alisson will be starting this fixture. So that's why I feel like he would start this game. Me personally, I wouldn't start Adrian in any situation. And to be fair, I've been impressed with Kelleher whenever he's played, which is quite nice to see, especially for a young goalkeeper. When he comes on, he doesn't tend to make many mistakes. He looks very solid, very confident in his overall play. So for me, Kelleher definitely starts. Back four, I've gone for Robertson, Van Dijk, Matip, and Alexander-Arnold, who I believe should be starting this fixture. If not, it'd be probably a little shuffle where Milner would probably start a right back. And I'm not sure who's starting midfield because Thiago's still injured. Keita, I believe, has played a couple of games for his national team, so would be a slight risk to play him straight away. So yeah, it's been interesting. And Fabinho's not available as well. So I think if Alexander-Arnold isn't available for this fixture, not my personal choice, but you'd probably have to play someone like Gomez as a right back. I'd still probably have Milner in the midfield. I feel like his engine would be quite useful during this fixture, especially tough tackles will be needed, and just roughing up the opposition will be quite useful. And you've got Henderson there as well. So for me, this would have a good midfield balance, especially with Jones, who's been our creative spark in the last few weeks. So I'd still start with him. I've been really impressed with how he's performed, and long may it continue, to be honest. Front three, Mane, who's been doing really well for Senegal. You've got Salah, obviously, King Mo there, definitely starting this game. And I've actually gone for Firmino. So even if Jota is fit, I think because he's just come from an injury, I wouldn't rush him so quickly during this game. Plus, it's a midday kickoff, so he's not probably had enough time to sort of rest during his sort of training sessions as well. So Firmino's been training all week. He hasn't played international football, so he'll be a lot fresher than Jota, in my opinion. So this would be my starting 11. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, as I feel like this would be a good team to start against Watford there. Got a couple of comments here. Thoughts on Mane? Is he getting back to his best? I believe he is. In his last few performances, I still feel like he's not as confident as he normally is. He does sort of overthink certain passes, but the last couple of goals he scored for me showed that when he's sort of shooting with his instinct, he gets the job done. So for me, he just needs to play more freedom, more creativity, and express himself, not to overthink the play too much, and just play to his best. I think he will get there. In terms of numbers, he's doing it. So there's no question in terms of his sort of end product. But in terms of his overall game, I feel like he's slowly getting there, which is great to see. He's a top player, one of my favorite players at Liverpool. And Ravi's also said, I think Gomez gets exposed too much. Me personally, I'm not a fan of Gomez at right back. He does a solid job, don't get me wrong, but it's not his natural position. I know he played there when he was in his younger days for Charlton. Even when he debuted for Liverpool under Brendan Rodgers, he played as a left back. But that was probably due to his pace and his physique, as he was able to run up and down the wing. But in terms of how we play under Klopp, his sort of ability is more suited for a centre-back role, where obviously he's formed a great partnership with Van Dijk, but he can cover grounds in deeper positions rather than being the guy who's the sort of the creator from the wing. So that's why I would prefer Milner if Trent Alexander-Arnold wasn't able to start. But because we've got so many injuries in midfield, you've got Oxlade-Chamberlain who'd be an option, I guess. So maybe I'd play Oxlade-Chamberlain in the centre midfield and put Milner at right back. Not sure in terms of in Oxlade-Chamberlain's fitness, but I guess that's an option. If he's fit, then that could work as well to our advantage. But interesting fixture, to be fair. In terms of my prediction for this game, I'd go for 2-0 to Liverpool. I think because it's a midday kickoff, I'm not expecting the team to be sort of firing all cylinders. But the form we've been in, definitely think Mo Salah will score one goal. I'd give it to Jones. I think Jones might get another goal. He just seems to be having that sort of rich vein of form right now. He's scoring goals. So yeah, hopefully that's the case for him. Ravi's just giving his prediction there. He's going for 3-1 Liverpool. Yeah, I think that's not a bad shout as well. Definitely, I think there will be like a 2-goal gap. I don't really see Watford troubling us too much. Ismaila Sarr has been in great form, so you never know. A good option to have in your FPL league. If you haven't done your transfer yet, you've still got until tomorrow to do that. But I believe it's like 6.2 million or something. So yeah, a good option regarding that. But yeah, really, really interesting in terms of the fixture. What I'll do now also, I'll do a prediction of the other games that are happening in match week 8. So let's see what we can do here. I'm not sure if you can see my screen very well, but I'll go through the teams anyway. So we've got Southampton versus Leeds United, which is an interesting fixture. You've got Southampton, who probably haven't got the results that they've wanted in in the last few weeks, but they've shown really good performances. They've had quite a few draws as well. So for me, interesting fixture. I'll go for Southampton win. I think that'll be 1-0 to Southampton there. Just got a comment here from Ravi. Is Jota going to start over Bobby, considering Bobby's current fitness and form? I would personally go with Bobby ahead of Jota, because Jota's had a muscle injury this week. So he's just done a bit of light training. So I think he'd be more useful coming from a bench as an impact player rather than starting, and especially being a midday kickoff as well. I know it's just a few hours difference here and there, because obviously the traditional kickoff time would be 3 o'clock, or we play on a Sunday, for example. But those few hours make a big difference in terms of resting and recouping from training sessions that he's had over the week. So, me personally, I would start Bobby, as Bobby wasn't selected for Brazil and pretty much should be fresh and raring to go. So, that would be my selection for our attack there. So the next fixture, Norwich and Brighton. So two teams, respectively, I believe, will be fighting for relegation this season. Norwich City, I've got some decent players. It's at home, but I'm favouring Brighton. I've been very impressed with how Brighton have played in the last few weeks. I've gotten some good, useful points as well. So I'm going for 2-1 to Brighton for that fixture there. Aston Villa versus Wolves. This is a good fixture. Really impressed in terms of how Wolves have been playing, especially with the return of Jimenez, who, had a very serious injury. So it was always going to take time for him to get back to his sort of normal self. But I've been impressed with one of their new signings, Hwang Hee-chan, who's a player that I really liked. I remember seeing him playing against us actually in the Champions League when he played for Red Bull Salzburg, and he was very much a sort of impressive player in terms of how he played. Pressed really well from the front, very aggressive in terms of his play, a great finisher, as you saw in his last fixture where he scored 2 goals, scoring one with his left foot and right foot, and his clean finishes as well. So really been impressed in terms of how he plays. Ravi's giving me a prediction 2-0 to Brighton. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Brighton's, for me, they've been playing some really good football. So great job Graham Potter's doing there at Brighton. Regarding the Aston Villa and Wolves game, I would give that a draw. I think it'll be 1-1. Leicester, Manchester United. So an interesting fixture, especially for Manchester United, who haven't been in great form recent weeks, and they've got a tough fixture list coming up in the next few weeks. So, yeah, this is not an easy fixture at all. I would probably say this will end up as a draw. I don't think United will score that many goals. They're just not playing. They're not playing well, to be fair. They're not playing sort of that free-flowing football, in my opinion. Solskjaer's been chopping and changing the team a bit too much. They've not really made use of Sancho that well, in my opinion. Ronaldo, an amazing player, obviously, but I think they're heavily relying on him to just get the goals just like that. They're not really using other players to their utility. So, for example, Pogba, for me, they're playing him a bit more deeper than normal. Whereas if you remember the opening fixture, he got 4 assists. So he was playing more as a number 10 during that fixture. So these sort of things does sort of add a bit of unrest within the squad. Some sort of disgruntled players as well at the same time who aren't happy to be playing different roles every game when, they've had such a great performance one week and then next week they're playing left wing or, that's the reason for me why Pogba hasn't flourished under Solskjaer at Manchester United. So, and Greenwood as well, for me, since the Ronaldo signing, he hasn't really been playing as well. And I've got such high expectations of him as a player. So hopefully he can bring back some form into his play. But regarding this result, I don't see a win coming from Manchester United. So I'll go for a 1-1. I think Vardy will score for Leicester City as well. Who can't stop scoring. For me, just he's such an underrated player, always on the score sheet, and at his age as well, he's still you know plays on the shoulder, outpaces most players, and scores fantastic goals. And he just hasn't slowed down. So credit to him. I know people question his diet in terms of the amount of Red Bull and all that sort of stuff he drinks and eats, but nevertheless, he's doing the job for the team. So yeah, so there you go. So next fixture, Manchester City and Burnley. Yeah, this has got a wipeout written all over it. 5-0. I literally think Burnley will get demolished. And it's funny because I always say whenever Burnley play Liverpool, Nick Pope turns into Manuel Neuer. But during this fixture, I don't know who he turns into, to be honest with you. He becomes a shadow of himself. So I'm expecting a complete whitewash from Manchester City there. Next fixture, Brentford and Chelsea. So more or less like a West London derby, isn't it? A tough place to get points, as Liverpool found out a couple of weeks ago. I'd love to actually have been in that game because the crowd was just so vibrant, so loud, and you can just feel the passion amongst the fans there. So it'll be an interesting game. I think Chelsea will get the win during this fixture. I think it'll be a 1-0 to Chelsea regarding this fixture here. And then you've got Merseyside neighbours, Everton versus West Ham. So two good teams in great form, to be fair. This will be an exciting encounter. I'm hoping for goals, to be fair. Antonio as well, fantastic for West Ham. He's scoring lots of goals. Everton, they've got Doucouré, who's just been rejuvenated under Rafa Benitez, playing pretty much box to box. I think last season under Ancelotti, he was more of a defensive mid, but now he's just playing with such freedom. Played an assist the other day, scored a couple goals so far this season as well, and has been a standout performer for me in the Premier League this season so far. So regarding this fixture, I'd give it a 2-2. I think it'll be a draw. Newcastle versus Tottenham. So I've not actually had a chance to express my views about the whole takeover, as I believe it happened the following day after my last episode. So quickly discuss that unexpected takeover, because I know last year it was pretty much on the table, but the way it was just sort of resurrected this last few weeks, and it happened so quickly. Credit to the guys that were involved in the conclusion of that deal. But what does this mean for the Premier League? So, as you've probably seen on social, the owners are very, very wealthy. They have more wealth than any of the other Premier League owners combined. That's how wealthy they are. So I'm not expecting them to do so many wholesale changes in January. I think it would be more of a project where I believe they're trying to recruit a sporting director right now. So once they have someone in place, that's when they sort of have the strategy for next few months. If they can get a quality manager in right now, that might be useful. I personally think they should just keep with Bruce for another month or so until they find the right person, because you don't want to just recruit any manager right now. I know there's been links with Steven Gerrard, who I don't want him to go to Newcastle, obviously, because that's a future Liverpool manager right there. Frank Lampard, not a bad shout, but me personally, because think about it, they will eventually end up as a super team. So, when he was at Chelsea, he was mainly there due to his legendary status, but it was quite evident that he was sort of out of his depth in terms of managing sort of top players and different personalities, and he just wasn't getting the best out of them. If you look what Tuchel done as soon as he took over, he just did a complete revamp in terms of the formation, the setup, and the rest is history in terms of what they achieved last season. So it's an interesting one. I saw links with Brendan Rodgers yesterday, which were dismissed earlier today. So is the chicken. For me, I'd go all out for Conte. Give that guy whatever he wants. Um, I'd probably also try and get Harry Kane. I know he'd cost a lot of money, but the owner's money is no option at this stage, and to sign someone who's probably the closest thing to the Newcastle legend Alan Shearer in terms of being a serial killer in the box. So interesting proposition there. I think they will sort of go for top players in the Premier League like Harry Kane, but it's been pretty obvious. He's been disgruntled. He's not happy in terms of playing for Tottenham right now. Obviously, he was seeking for a move for Manchester City, but I'm not sure. Let me know, Tottenham fans, because are you still happy that he's a Tottenham player? Are you still supporting him the way you used to, or the way you were supporting him last season? Because for me, he's not showing his true form. He doesn't seem to be happy. Even for England, people thought, he'd go away for England and score all sorts of goals, but he didn't even do that. So a move away for me would suit both parties. Will it happen in January? Who knows? We're in October right now. Get ready for countless amount of rumors. I've seen Coutinho linked and all sorts. So exciting times for Newcastle fans. And to be honest with you, as a neutral, I think they deserve it. To be honest with you, they've been through a tormenting time the last, I believe, 14 years under Mike Ashley, who obviously says he's a diehard Newcastle fan, but didn't really show it in terms of how he ran the club. Which is a shame because growing up in the 90s, Newcastle were one of the top teams. Obviously the infamous Liverpool Newcastle game with Stan Collymore scoring the final. That's always going to be regarded as a classical match in Premier League history, let alone our club's history. So they've always been a top team. I remember them playing in the Champions League. So, they've had some good times. So hopefully, and they've also had some bad times. So hopefully they can be balanced out with these new owners. What does this say for the other top teams in the league? Yes, I know we've got a team that could potentially blow us all away with big signings, but that's part and parcel of football now, isn't it? It's normal. You're expected to get takeovers there. Man City were just a normal team before. Chelsea were just a normal team before, and they're super teams right now. So it is what it is in regards to that. For me, it's exciting for the Premier League. It's exciting for football. Obviously, there's other ways of looking at the takeover regarding the human rights that the owners, they're not fulfilling in terms of their duties and stuff. But that's more of the sort of political side, which we could probably get into another time. But in football terms, it's good for the Newcastle fans, especially in terms of politics and stuff. That's another ball game there. So yeah, let's see how the takeover pans out for them in terms of who they'll recruit. I believe they're trying to recruit a sporting guy. I've forgotten his first name, but I believe his surname is Campos. So he was the one that was responsible for Monaco winning the league, and he recruited a number of the top players like the Mbappés, the Thomas Lemars, James Rodriguez. This goes on. That was a super team. Fabinho as well from Liverpool. So that was a super team that Monaco had at the time with Falcao, I remember as well. So someone that was known for buying sort of unknown / players with potential and making them superstars. So that might be the route for Newcastle, but the Newcastle do have the wealth to just buy top players here and there, like they're playing FIFA career mods. So we'll see. Exciting times for Newcastle fans. Slightly worrying times for the other Premier League teams there. But final fixture: Arsenal versus Crystal Palace. So Arsenal have been showing some good form recently. Aubameyang's back on the score sheet now, so he's playing in his natural position as a striker rather than on the wing. So he looks a lot more comfortable and confident in terms of how he's playing. Saka's been fantastic. Smith Rowe as well. So for me, the signs are really good for how Arsenal are playing. Odegaard as well started the last few games, and defensively they look a lot better. I think because they're playing two defensive midfielders, which suits their style of play. But in terms of the players that they have in the squad, it's the right way to go. So regarding this fixture, I'm gonna go for a 2-1 win to Arsenal. Goal scorers will be Saka, Aubameyang, and I'm going for the new boy at Crystal Palace, Edouard, who I've been really impressed with. Great signing for Palace so far. Hopefully he can sort of gain some fitness, as he's been more of an impact sub player. But I feel like that's just him settling into the club and getting used to his surroundings. And once he's there, they've got a good goal scorer on their hands. He might not be the sort of magical player in terms of link up and stuff, but he will get you goals. You can just see the way he plays as a great finisher in front of goals. So a good acquisition for Crystal Palace there. So that pretty much wraps us up for today. So thank you guys for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Our next episode will be next Tuesday, 19th October at 10 p.m., where I'll be covering all the big matches, all the big moments during match week 8. Hopefully a Liverpool win as well. But again, thank you guys. Stay safe. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you very soon. Until next time, goodbye.